Commission meeting of February 25th, 2019 to order. Madam Secretary, will you take the roll?
Yes. Commissioner Benavides?
Present.
Commissioner Verino? Here. Commissioner Alderetti?
Here.
Vice Chair Contreras-Leo?
Here.
Chair McLaughlin?
Here.
Commissioner Cano?
Present.
Commissioner Nguyen?
Here.
Chair, you have quorum.
Thank you. Would you all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Put your right hand in your heart and begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We will now open for public comments. Does a member of the public have any public comments for a non-agenda item this evening? You may request to speak with the Secretary. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. Is there anyone who would like to speak on non-agenda items? Hearing none, we'll close the hearing and we'll move on to the consent calendar. I'd like to have a motion to approve the minutes from the February 11th meeting.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, David Benavides, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 7-0. We don't have any absent commissioners this evening, so that's good. We'll move on to the business calendar. We will now move on to the regular business calendar. The formal action of the Planning Commission shall become effective after the 10-day appeal period unless the City Council holds a public hearing on the matter. Then the formal action will become effective on the day following the hearing and the decision by the City Council. An appeal from the decision or requirement of the Planning Commission must be filed with the Clerk of the Council and a copy sent to the Planning Department within 10 days of the date of the Commission's action. The appeal may be made by any interested party, individual, or group. Before we move on to the items tonight, I just want to make one announcement, and that is that item number 6 on our agenda, which is a work-study session that's planned for it's currently going to be adjourned from tonight to Thursday. So the meeting will be on Thursday night. So if you're here to hear that particular work-study for the Main Place Mall, just be aware that it's going to be this Thursday at 5:30. Okay, We'll move on to item number 1, conditional use permit number 2018-27 to allow an automated car wash, and variance number 2018-13 to allow a driveway within 150 feet of the intersection for the property located at 1703 East 17th Street in the arterial commercial C5 zoning district. Does any commissioner have anything to say, disclose at this point in time? No? Okay. Ali, it's yours.
Thank you, Chairman McLaughlin. Good evening, members of the Planning Commission. Up for consideration tonight is the Rocket Express Car Wash, CUP number 2018-27 and variance number 2018-13 for the property located at 1703 East 17th Street. For a little bit of background, this project went through the city's process and ultimately came before the Planning Commission in October of 2017, so just over a year ago. The project was denied at the time due to traffic concerns. There was some opposition stemming from the fact that the original project design had some features that basically led to it being denied. I'll walk the Commission through those features and compare them against what's proposed today. Subsequent to that, in August 2018, the project came back as a work study session before the Commission with some proposed revisions that were previewed to the Commission, and overall the applicant walked away with some positive feedback stemming from those proposed revisions, which included eliminating a proposed driveway on Maybury Street and installation of a full traffic signal at the corner of Maybury and 17th without any expectation for reimbursement. The applicant then subsequently submitted a full set of plans to the city for review through the Development Review Committee process and received comments and feedback, made adjustments to the plans, and subsequently, the project was originally scheduled for public hearing 2 weeks ago on the 11th. But after learning about the combined Meredith Park and Portola Park Neighborhood Association meetings on February 12th, the applicant requested to have the project continued for 2 weeks to take advantage of the opportunity to present the project an additional time before that joint community neighborhood association meeting on February 12th. So the project today entails demolition of an existing building. It used to be a furniture store that's been vacant for several years, and then to construct an automated car wash. So the centerpiece of the car wash would be about a 4,000 square foot automated drive-through car wash tunnel, 22 vacuum stations, 3 employee parking spaces, and a perimeter wall and on-site landscaping. The project would also feature installation of a new traffic signal at 17th and Maybury. So originally the project applicants proposed to install the signal, pay for it, and then get reimbursed by the city at a future date for their fair share contribution, essentially. And this time the applicant has proposed installing the signal without any expectation of reimbursement. Finally, the project would feature a new driveway, which is 142 feet from the nearest intersection. The code requires a 150-foot distance in this zoning district, so the 142 feet is just 8 feet shy of meeting that standard. And then the standard site improvements for a project of this magnitude: sidewalks, curbs, driveways, and things like that. So this is the site as it appears today. It's an aerial view. To the east is Fantastic Cafe. To the west is Maybury Street and a mixture of commercial uses. To the north are some commercial and then multifamily uses, and then up the street is a single-family neighborhood. Down across the street is commercial uses as well. This is the site photo, so this is the vacant furniture building. And then this was the previous site plan that came before the commission. So in the previous version, the cars would essentially enter the site from 17th Street, go through a series of pay stations that would then one by one release the vehicles into the drive-through tunnel. There would be a driveway out onto the alley right away in case someone had made a wrong turn and gotten stuck. They would be able to just kind of exit onto the alley. Those that had not made a mistake and paid for the car wash could then snake through and go through the car wash tunnel and then come out and then go through a series of vacuum bays before then having to exit onto Maybury Street, and then from there basically be able to go out back towards 17th or up Maybury Street. In the proposed version, the project has been revised to just have one driveway for in and out off of 17th Street. So the applicant removed the driveway from Maybury Street. So now cars essentially continue to enter the site from 17th Street. They'll pay, be released one by one into the car wash tunnel. The car wash tunnel in this version and in the previous version has it such that the wash takes place and then the blowers at the end of the car wash are oriented towards 17th Street, not toward the neighborhood to the north. Then after leaving the tunnel, cars can either exit back onto 17th if they don't want to vacuum or all that, or they can make a right turn into that parking area with vacuum stalls and execute a 3-point turn and then leave back out onto 17th Street. The architecture of the project, which I'll walk you through, originally it's the same architecture, just colors that were meant to stand out a little bit more and highlight the project. The applicant received some feedback from staff and voluntarily revised the color scheme to be a little less visually impactful. So staff reviewed the project. It went back through review by planning, public works, building, fire, all that to ensure it meets today's codes. Basically, staff in analyzing the project found that by eliminating the driveway on Maybury Street, it reduces the impacts on that street, now with all traffic being directed to 17th Street. The applicant also agreed to remove air guns from the project. Those are those guns that blow out quick bursts of air and make a lot of noise. The applicant was open to removing those in an effort to also reduce noise impacts on the neighborhood. The applicant will also be constructing a full block wall in the north and east portions of the site, 8 feet tall. The conditions include having alley-facing lights in order to help deter any crime and better illuminate the alley to the north. As stated earlier, the project's colors have been modified. They did also agree to update their traffic study based on the new configuration, and it continues to show basically that the project won't have any impacts on the level of service in the area, and that the traffic signal will also be almost like an added measure to help enhance safety on that street. The city will be requiring an updated noise study prior to submittal to plan check to ensure that the project doesn't violate the city's noise ordinance. And the city is also conditioning the project to require that that noise study be updated within 1 month of the project being operational, and then again after 1 year of the project being operational, to ensure that basically over the full 12-month period, as its operations normalize, that the city can ensure that it continues to comply with its noise standards. The city has also worked with the applicant to add a comprehensive set of conditions of approval. Again, no air guns. We're asking for roll-up doors to also help minimize noise and keep people out of the car wash tunnel when they shouldn't be there. Also, the noise studies, as I shared earlier, are included in the conditions, making sure that the wall along the alley and the property line on the east are designed well, landscaping, good aesthetic design, good lighting. And then finally, the traffic signal, basically we're requiring that it be installed prior to release of certificate of occupancy. So before the car wash can even become operational, the traffic signal would have to be installed and then basically absorbed by the city as part of the project. So based on this analysis and the revisions made to the project, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission take the following actions to approve the conditional use permit and the aforementioned variance as conditioned. And I'd be happy to answer any questions at this time.
Do the commissioners have any questions of staff? Dave?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. A couple of questions. We've had a few new automated car washes over the last number of years that have been opened up throughout the city. Two that come to mind in particular, one at 17th and Cypress. At 1st and Cypress, another at 17th and formerly Happy Hands. I forget the intersection. Baker. The one on 1st and Cypress, I don't recall getting much negative feedback from the neighbors. That one actually was established first, from my recollection. The one at 17th and Baker, however, there are quite a few neighbors that came out, and I think there's been some there's been some steps towards mitigations, particularly with regard to noise, since after the opening of that car wash. So I'm curious as to how what's being proposed here compares to either of those two, which one it's more similar to, which function it's most similar to. I think there are some distinctions between the two, but can you speak to that?
Sure.
The noise in particular, and then just the overall comparison between these two, the two operations.
Some of the takeaways from the 17th and Baker project that you've mentioned have been added to this project as conditions of approval, and also design features. And also the applicant, by nature of the site and the way that it's oriented, has designed a project to avoid replicating those issues. So for example, with 17th and Baker, staff had to return with some requirements for noise studies and the air guns and things like that. The exit of the drive-through tunnel with the blowers also is closer to Baker Street, where those single-family homes exist. In this project site, we've been able to be proactive with the applicant by requesting that those air guns not be installed, that the noise studies be provided before and then updated regularly 1 month and 1 year after, that the technology that be used to have more sound-absorbing materials in the interior of the car wash tunnel, which the applicant will highlight tonight if called up. And then finally, just by mere orientation of the tunnel towards 17th Street rather than toward a row of single-family homes, to avoid basically projecting sound onto a sensitive land use like single-family homes.
So you mentioned the technology. I believe, can you clarify whether that was part of the response or the improvements that were made at 17th and Baker after, am I remembering correctly that they had to go in and change some of the equipment that they had there, specifically with regard to the blowers, was that the case? And is the technology that's being proposed here at this car wash more aligned with what has been, what was fixed, if you will, or what was improved at the 17th and Baker site?
So my understanding of the 17th and Baker site was that the applicant was asked to go and improve the technology of the blowers, whereas this applicant is proposing to utilize blowers that basically, a lot of mechanical equipment these days comes with like manufacturer's information about decibels and noise ratings and stuff, and as the applicant puts it, and has also, I believe, installed on their car wash on Main and Getz down in the southern part of town, is quiet enough that one could carry a conversation at normal room level beneath the blowers. In addition, I'm unfamiliar whether the Zaru car wash on 17th and Baker actually used the like kind of sound absorbing building materials in the tunnel. It's more like glass and clear construction, whereas this is lined with a material that's intended to act as a sponge for noise and prevent it from blasting out of the tunnel.
Last question I have, thank you for the answers and responses. Last question I have for now, I didn't have the opportunity to be here back when this was first presented to the Planning Commission. As I understand, based on your presentation and the information provided, that there was previously a Mayberry driveway that has now been eliminated. However, now all traffic goes in and out, goes onto 17th Street, which is a main thoroughfare. Frankly, I'm a bit concerned as to the impact with having no other ingress-egress, whether that would heighten the impact on 17th, again, with the high rate of speed and being a main thoroughfare through the city. What's staff's rationale behind eliminating the Mayberry driveway? And I go back to the First and Cypress site that does have a couple of options. It seems to alleviate, to not necessarily have a specific bottleneck that could potentially impact traffic. So what's being proposed here does not have that, again, that other opportunity to have less of the kind of offset some of that potential congestion that would potentially come as a result of only one ingress-egress. Can you speak to the rationale there and thoughts by staff? Sure.
So big picture, and if Public Works colleagues want to add anything, I'm open to that, but big picture, 17th Street is a street that's designed to accommodate a much larger volume of traffic than a street like Mayberry. So 17th Street has multiple lanes, and it's basically a wider street that can handle the sort of normal ins and outs of a commercial business compared to a street like Mayberry. So that's why in reviewing the revised plans, the city planning and public works agencies didn't have the concerns that they would have if this were, and this is my second point, a larger facility, like let's say the Cypress and First project that you're referencing. This is on a lower scale that is not expected to generate the same amount of trips. I believe the trip generation figures are provided in the traffic study that's included with the packet. I was saying an average of 30 morning trips and 70 p.m. trips, which is consistent with, let's say, like a neighborhood cafe, like Fantastic Cafe next door, that is accommodated by a street like 17th Street.
Thank you. For sure.
Any other questions? Eric?
Just following up on Commissioner Benavidez's question regarding the car wash at 17th and Baker. So he was asking about some of the noise, and he touched on the traffic impacts. Have there been any sort of significant traffic impacts as a result of that car wash's location within probably 600-700 feet, maybe more, Santiago Elementary School?
Sure. I'm unaware of any as of this speaking, but if there's anything that we can add.
Hi, good evening, Commissioners. Ted Higgins. We are also not aware of any particular complaints from that car wash as it relates to the elementary school.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? I'm going to go back to David and what he mentioned about Main Street ingress and egress. There's a car wash up in Tustin Avenue that's right across the way from the Villages that has almost the identical footprint of this. And to tell you the truth, it scares the crap out of me to go in there because of the way you have to get on and off of Tustin Avenue. And Tustin Avenue and Main and 17th Street are pretty much the same kind of streets. I mean, they're three lanes wide, and you don't know about the entrance until you're almost on it. So you kind of, hit your brakes to go in, and then you're coming out the same way. And frankly, there's no median, just like 17th has no median. And the fact is, I've seen people that have cut across and gone to the left instead of getting onto. I mean, so there's a lot of traffic flow there, and the roads are. And the comparison in my book is it's identical to what we're seeing here on the proposal as what's on Tustin Avenue. So, I mean, I think there needs to be a little research done with respect to how that particular car wash is functioning, because it's identical.
Yeah, and in particular, I don't know on the car wash, the example that you're talking about, what the accident history is. I do know that with the traffic study, we saw a total of 37 cars in and out in the peak hour, and that's not a big number.
No, it's not a question of too much traffic. It's a question of the traffic flow in and out of that particular, in and out of that particular car wash, because it's identical. There's only one way of getting in, and the exit and the entrance are both on the same side. They're both next to each other.
Right.
And it's the same thing. People try to get across the 3 lanes and go left instead of having to just automatically turn right, even though I believe, if I'm not mistaken, there's a big sign that says no left turn, right turn only, but they still do it.
I understand what you're saying, and again, in that particular situation, I'm not aware of whether or not there's a demonstrated problem with a lot of accidents at the particular location. I know with this, at this location, a car going eastbound wanting to turn into this particular site, they would have just the one conflict direction. They would have 3, it's true, they'd have 3 lanes that they would have to watch, look for an opening and turn left. They have a 2-way left turn lane to make it. If a car wanted to exit the site and turn left, they would have the benefit of the new signal. And so,
right, but the new signal, there's a benefit, and there's also a penalty in that respect too, because if cars start to stack up and they get up to where the ingress and egress is on 17th Street, they're going to block people trying to get out of the car wash, and there's not much of an apron between the exit on 17th Street and the actual car wash itself. I mean, are you going to be capable of stacking up 3 to 5 or 6 cars, or do you shut down the whole line? It's another thing that has to be understood, because you are putting a light in there. Today, you can drive right out and keep going, because the next light is probably a good quarter of a mile from where the car wash is going to be located. Now you're putting a traffic light within 142 feet. So that's not very
Right.
far.
yeah.
So there's going to be a stack up.
Yes, I understand what you're saying, and I can tell you in general, we have many instances of these kind of situations throughout the city, where with the 2-way left turn lane, the vehicles are able to make it out.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's a lot of other examples you can come up with for sure, but not all of those are good examples either. I mean, they need to be addressed from a different aspect. But what we're on tonight, I'm just looking at it from the standpoint 142 feet. and a traffic light, how do you avoid delays, backup, and everything else?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only other thing that we could look at in that in this situation would be a median across in 17th Street. You know, that would be the only other remedy so that no cars make the left in or out at that particular location.
Because it's going to happen. I mean, there's no doubt that it's going to happen. So, okay. Cynthia?
I have a question in regards to traffic. So, is there a plan to synchronize the lights? Because I think that would...
Yes, yeah. In general, to some extent, just about all of the signals along the main streets, the arterials are synchronized. We resynchronize about 2 or 3 of them every year, through a OCTA program. And so, again, 17th Street lights are synchronized now, and we retime them probably about every 5 years for each major arterial.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions at this time? Angie? Go ahead.
I just wanted to know if the applicant had built any other car washes in the city of Santa Ana and how are those doing?
Sure. The applicant has constructed a recently opened car wash at 2603 South Main Street, I believe. It's on Main and Getz as you're heading down Main toward the southern part of the city. That's relatively new. I think it's opened within the past maybe 2 or 3 months. And so far we haven't, again, based on any sort of evidence we've received, haven't heard any sort of like negative impacts to the community. The applicant is here tonight, and he can offer, firsthand accounts of his operations too. Sure.
Eric? Just a couple of follow-up questions. The current car wash that's being proposed is 22 stations. Do you know how many are at the one on 1st and Cypress, the one on 17th and Baker, and then the one that Mark mentioned on Tustin and 17th?
I don't have that information at this time.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Ali, thank you. Madam Secretary, have we received any correspondence on this item?
Yes, we have received 3 letters in opposition, 1 letter in support, and also a petition with 23 signatures, and this has all been distributed to the commissioners and also posted on the website.
Okay, thank you. Okay, would the applicant like to speak at this time? Sarah, where did you distribute? In the mail? Yeah.
Hi.
Okay.
I'm Christopher McKenna with McKenna Assets. Sorry, I had an injury, so I'm kind of hobbling slow. I appreciate you guys hearing this again, and I think we've spent quite a bit of time together trying to iron out what we could do to kind of come to a happy medium on this. I've done the best I can to try and revise this project. I said before, I can't really prevent a number, of some people coming from the neighborhood that are going to be against it. There's some people here that are for it. There was a petition that we got that was for it. All things being equal, I've tried to hear the concerns of the neighborhood and what some of those problems were. I think the main issue was the Mawberry exit, and the fact that there was a huge traffic problem at that corner. So I have done what I could possibly do within my grasp to try and help with that problem. And so we put everything onto 17th Street, and I'm willing to, put a traffic light in there, and it's a good start to help the neighborhood back in there and help that flow of that problem that is from that school back there that, as I understand, a lot of people are unhappy with, but we're just trying to find some common ground of where we can work together and be a good neighbor. And so again, I appreciate you guys, hearing this again, and Ollie and the staff at the planning department have been very helpful and help us kind of knock this into shape. And so everyone's been very professional. So appreciate that. And we're here to answer questions or whatever.
Does the commission have any questions of the applicant at this time? Go ahead, Angie.
So one of my questions before was, I believe you have another site, so I just wanted to see how that's doing. You have one in Santa Ana already by Main and...
Okay, so there's a correction to that. So our architect has designed a couple of different car washes in town and built them here. I personally have not had a car wash in Santa Ana. I have another car wash in South Bay, in Redondo Beach, and another one in Hermosa Beach, and we do very well there. The Redondo Beach, which was sort of a contentious issue as well at some point, we ended up working with the city and working with the neighbors, and a lot of that had to do with the sound and the blower technology. Well, we used a patented system that really is super quiet, and you can literally stand under our blowers there and have a conversation like we're having and actually hear each other. Like, you don't have to raise your voice. So not only that, but we used a brand new acousticant called Pyrock technology that we aligned all the walls with. So we put in a lot of technology and a lot of forethought into it, knowing where the problems are going to be ahead of time. I do this for a living as a consultant, so I build and design and help to clients, get car washes going. So we're one of the best groups that you could probably have to come in and design a really nice car wash that will be traffic friendly, sound friendly, and the whole 9 yards. So we've taken every measure we possibly know of in this business. So
Thank you.
yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay, first of all, what I'd like to make sure we understand is that we're going to open the public hearing at this point in time, but this is a continuation of the public hearing that was held on February 11th. So on February 11th, we opened up for public hearing. We closed it. We didn't close it, but we continued it to this evening's meeting. Each of you, if you filled out a card, you'll have 3 minutes to speak. And at this point in time, I'll start out and also mention, Bridget, you spoke the last time, but you can speak again this time if you'd like. So you're up.
My name's Bridget Catalano. Good evening. I property manage the apartment complex, 100-unit apartment complex that's directly north behind this proposed car wash. And I have 8 tenants who will be 8 units that will be sitting directly above that car wash. And an 8-foot wall is not going to do anything for those tenants. They're going to hear noise, and even if it's not the blowers, they're going to hear the vacuums, and there's going to be 20 of them, and it's be a constant humming. And some of my tenants sleep during the day. So just because it's not going to be at night doesn't mean that they're going to be fine. Also, that alleyway, everybody does it as a cut-through. It's still going to be more of a cut-through. I have parking stalls that are there as well. And there's now going to be lights that are going to be in that alleyway, and that's going to create light for them too. They don't have balconies on those units, so now I'm going to tell them they can't open their windows, which is their main source of air movement for those units. So I just think we're totally against it. My owners are against it, my tenants are against it, and I just don't think that it's the right for that neighborhood. And we just spent $1 million to upgrade those units in 2016, and I hate to see the owners are upset about that. And it's just not good for the neighborhood, for what's there. So.
Thank you, Bridget. David Marcel.
Hello, Commissioners. David Mausiel. I'm a resident right behind the car wash. Had an opportunity to come back and spoke on the first meeting we had. So the things that I had concerns about, we had our meeting on the 12th at the local school, and there were some things that were shared in there with regards to what they had done with the work with the new car wash. The only concerns that I had was there some things that were shared there that there was some support from the apartments, and I just had an opportunity to speak to the young lady, and she said obviously that they did not support it. So I'm a little bit concerned because as I think about the areas that we think about the car wash that's on Baker, the car wash that's on Tustin Avenue, the car wash that's on Tustin and Meats, every time you go by there, they're loud wherever you go. So as the concerns I think about it, again, and I know he says his technology is amazing, but the thing is, once we're done with this, once you have an opportunity to hear this hearing, when it doesn't happen like he said it's going to happen, where do we go to then? And so I thought the only opportunity for us is to come in to share with you what our concerns are. Concerns about, we do have some issues about the homeless around the area, concerns about folks coming into the trash cans after they close to go and go looking for bottles or anything may be, for debris, whatever it may be, and really just about concerns of overall safety. I understand that the car wash is a very nice rendition of what they've done. It's beautiful. It looks nice. However, as a resident lives right down the street, just real concerned about what's going to happen once you guys are done and we're no longer in this room and it's now happening. Okay.
Thank you, David.
Appreciate it.
Fran Needham.
I'm Fran Needham. I live in the Portola Park neighborhood. I've been there since October of '66, 52 years. Seen a few changes in the city. The building is a derelict. We'd like to see it out of there. Don't think a car wash is what should be there. Within a mile and a half of this car wash are three other car washes. 601 East 17th Street, 1 mile west, right at the 5 freeway. The one on we talked about here, 2035 North Tustin, which is at Catalina. That's 9/10 of a mile away. And one at 325 North Tustin, which is 4th Street. That's 1.4 miles. So we've got three other car washes right there. Also, I've been worried about the traffic trying to get out onto 17th Street going east. Sometimes you set 10 minutes trying to get out on the 17th if you don't go to Linwood or over to Sherry Lane to the light. I know that. I live up on Avalon. I'm not physically affected by it, but it's not good for our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you, Fran. Gilbert Zamora.
I'm Gilbert Zamora. I'm also in Portola Park. I was back here a year ago or a couple years ago. It was voted unanimously not to put the car wash last time. But as far as he mentioned that the school, yeah, we have problems with the school, but the school's not going anywhere. And also you have kids that come around, you know, they walked over to Wendy's as a treat, you know, but regardless whether the big wall or anything like that, but also just let you know about the traffic. You get people that come out of Superior Market. There's 2 outlets from Superior Market, and they basically jet across the street to get onto 17th Street, go west or east, either way. They come from east, go into the parking lot, They also come from the west, go into the parking lot. They cut across. There's been countless accidents on 17th Street, people coming out of Wells Fargo Bank, Wendy's, and also from Fantastic. There's people cutting into Fantastic, into Wendy's, and going to the bank. If you guys put the Meridian, they're basically going to go to the corner, which is basically a death trap waiting to happen. People walk the street when they're even halfway through the intersection. People are turning right in front of them. That's going to happen on 17th Street as well, even with when if they put the light there. But yeah, it will be. If you put the light there, it's going to be dead gridlock when they put the light, because they use Maybury Street and Wright Street as thoroughfares, so you can get to the 22 off of Grand and stuff. And they fly down 17th Street to get to Grand. They fly up 17th Street to get to Tustin, to catch the 55. I mean, it's just waiting to happen. I mean, who knows how many people there's been serious accidents at those corners. Whether you put a light or not, you're still going to have accidents. People just don't seem to even pay attention to any of the intersection, the lights. They run red lights and stuff like that. people want to get their lunch. As far as saying like there's only 30 cars that go in there during the day, I finally highly believe that, because people go there for lunch. You get a lot of officers go there, and also they go to Wendy's and they go to Fantastic, which is fine, which is great. That's what they're there for. But still, in the community, it's not that we don't. It's not fit for ours. And also, if they put the 8-foot wall up there, that wall is, they're going to spend more money painting that wall because it's going to be tagged. They've tagged my house. I live up on the corner of 19th and Mayberry. It's tagged like 5 times, and even during the day. Homeless people, they're in the offices around. They're sleeping in the offices. There are fights in the streets, and stuff. Then you got kids in the area. The company I work for, Hertz, at the car wash. There's number amounts of homeless people going through the trash cans during the day. You see them over even on Tustin Avenue. There's actually 4 car washes within a 2-mile radius of that place. There's one on Fairhaven and Grand, the one on Santiago, the one on Tustin, and the other one on Tustin on 4th Street. So, I mean, it's like, do we really need another one? It's like Starbucks that are popping up all over the place.
Thank you, Gilbert.
So, but, I mean, me, as far as everybody else, we're against it.
Thank you, Gilbert. Millie Garcia?
Hello. I'm the property manager at the Monterey Apartments.
You can pull the mic down.
There?
That's good.
And I've been there 20 years. We have, my property is all family. Some work during the day, some work during the night. And I think the noise is going to be terrible for some people, especially the units that face the car wash. Also, the traffic, the lights, it's going to be right on their bedrooms. And we have the school traffic, we got the alleyway, and it's going to be dangerous for those poor kids, people that are driving them to school in the morning and coming out in the afternoon. And there's a lot of traffic. And if you have 2 lights, one on Cherry and one on Mulberry, you're right there. So everything is going to pile up. And I know people aren't going to stay in and out. They're going to turn on that alleyway and create more problems to get out to the Cherry site. So I'm really against it, and I hope you really consider all the options. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Millie. Octavio Reynoso?
Good evening. I'm also a resident of the Portola Park neighborhood. My question was very similar to Mr. Benavides' question, so I won't ask it again, but I will share that I have a relative that lives on Baker Street where the mentioned car wash on 17 and Baker is at, and she has shared with me that there's definitely problems with the noise and an increase in traffic as well. So that's my major concern, the noise, traffic increase, as my neighbor has expressed. There's already a lot of traffic going from 17th to Santa Clara and vice versa. So I just see this as a problem that's going to make it even worse. Thank you.
Thank you, Octavio. Charles Diamond?
Yes, I'm Charles Diamond, the owner of the vacant property at 17th Street in Mayberry. And I've had a hard time trying to keep the homeless out and keep them from sleeping on the sidewalks next to Portela. And there is no way that the car wash is going to make near the noise that others think it's going to make, because I've listened to the blowers and so forth of the one car wash that's located at 617 Torrance, and he's absolutely right. I can talk to anybody I want when I'm next to those blowers there, and I don't hear any noise, and my hearing is very good. And as far as the building goes, I think it is an eyesore and needs to be torn down, and a car wash would be a great improvement to the neighborhood, and I'm sure that it would be much better to have that car wash than any of the others that they talked about that made a lot of noise. This car wash with its equipment that is patented won't make any noise. And they know, well, I should say it will make some noise, but not enough to stop you from talking when you're right next to the blowers. And I think that the neighborhood, with all the homeless sleeping around there and on the sidewalks, it would be a much better place to be for even the people that live in those apartments than to have all those homeless going through their rubbish and garbage cans and making noise and graffitiing up everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles. Richard Rasick.
I'm also with the ownership, and I just wanted to come up and address the committee. 50 years this has been in the family, this property, and in that 50 years we've seen a steady decline in the community, vacancies on 17th Street galore, and what we see is something that is a chance at having a viable business. Now, I hear everybody talk about all these car washes, 2 or 3 in the area, and that's something that you should consider, because that means not everybody is going to go to this car wash, and we know that. It's a neighborhood car wash serving the neighbors, about 30 trip counts in the morning, and I believe 70 in the report in the afternoon. And so looking at that, whatever the trip counts dictate, it's clear you're not going to have everybody come at one time. And I believe there was a video that showed how the cars come through and the timing that they come through, and it's spread out over a considerable amount of time. Mr. Diamond addressed you about the concerns he's had in keeping this property, in trying to keep the homeless out, in trying to keep the graffiti off, in trying to get people breaking in. And I look to the owner of the property, the Monterey Park property, the apartment building. I don't understand what they would not see the benefit of this. I really don't. I encourage anybody, and I have encouraged everybody, to go to the Redondo Beach Car Wash, where Chris McKenna owns that car wash operation. And I will tell you, the Mayor Aspel at the time of Redondo Beach, was very nervous when he said, I'm going to give you the okay, don't disappoint us. And he called after the car wash opened and said, you did exactly what we asked. You made us extremely proud, and I want to thank you. There is no noise. It's an aero-dry system. It's not your standard car wash. The Pyrock lines the tunnel, deafening the noise, clearly keeping it well within there. And these dryers or blowers are oriented toward the street, and I think that needs to be noted, at least 200, 250 feet from the apartment building. That's a considerable distance, and everybody knows, you don't need to be a noise expert, that as the distance gets further from the source of the noise, there's less ability to hear it. But I can personally tell you, as I stand here, I was within 4 to 6 feet from the actual blowers of the Redondo Beach Car Wash that Chris operates, and it will be the same equipment used. And I can tell you, you will not hear noise. And I'll go one step further, just to put this to rest.
Thank you, Richard.
I will just say one thing quickly, and that is that if the car wash does not meet the noise requirement in decibels, even after it's fully done, it doesn't open. That's how certain we are in the investment that it will meet the decibel requirements.
Okay. Thank you, Richard. Appreciate it. Rosie?
Hello. I'm here to speak for my friend. She lost her voice. She's sick.
Okay.
So she lives in the
Bring
Monterey.
the microphone down a little bit closer to you.
She lives in the Monterey Apartments, and she's actually going to be affected by the car wash because her apartment is the number 44, which is facing the car wash. And she's lived there for 6 months, and she understands that, let's see, I'm sorry, we just made a quick note. Well, actually, we were here at the previous meeting, and our understanding was that the neighborhood needed to approve it. I thought that's what the way that the council viewed this project last time. That's what it was 4-0. And the main concern was because of the traffic. When she comes home from work, she hits traffic when everybody's picking up the kids from school, and she can't go in through Sherry Lane, and she can't go in through Mayberry to her parking lot. So it takes her about 10-15 minutes to get to park herself to be able to go to her apartment and start dinner for her child and everything. So that's basically what she's most concerned about is the traffic. Okay? Thank you.
Thank you, Rose. James Kim.
Hi, good evening. My name is James Kim. Please understand my poor English. I cannot speak like a native. So I have been running the store Charlie's Liquor on the corner of the 17th and Mayberry for over 27 years. I'm working at the store every single night, but today I made time and I'm here because this is a very crucial matter for the community. I think safety is number one for everybody, but unfortunately I've been seeing so many accidents causing many injuries, some even fatal at the intersection, which is right front side of my store. And I even several Santa Ana detectives visited to my store, asked about the deadly hit and run accident occurred at the intersection last 27 years. This is a really dangerous intersection because on the both sides in the middle of the intersection has yellow waiting lines. So a lot of cars come and go many different directions and cross each other. And the 17th Street is very wide and no signal more than half miles. So a lot of drivers speed up over 50 miles, even during night or daytime, easily. All kind of factors make this intersection cause fatal accidents. Sometimes I see 2 or 3 times accidents in one day. Now, the car wash has agreed to fully fund the much-needed traffic signal at the intersection without seeking reimbursement from the city or others. Many homeless are hanging around the closed-up building, and even new retail businesses open up at the same building go out of business so many times. I've been seeing that for 27 years so many times. So now about the time, new project to replace this building with a new car wash with a beautiful landscape and the water feature on the corner. Having a brand new business open up there would be a welcome sight and a positive boost to the community. Our community would benefit from the traffic signal and the brand new business open up. I hope city council members make wise decisions about this project for our community and the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kim. Winston Covington.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. My name is Winston Covington, and for about the last 24 years, I've been helping with the leadership of the Portola Park Neighborhood Association, so I know its concerns very well. I lived on Mayberry for 8 years, a stone's throw from my corner house on Mayberry 19th to the site and to John Muir. I've spoken here before, but just to refresh this, I know we have some newer commissioners now on this commission. We stand against this. We have since its very first presentation 3 years ago. to the neighborhood association. You've heard for the reasons of traffic. You've heard for the reasons of quality of life issues. My big thing, since I have 4 kids, is the impact it makes with the traffic coming into the school. John Muir has over 1,000 kids now. The main entrance to John Muir Fundamental School is 17th and Mayberry, this exact same location. You've got most of these kids being driven in by their families. Not that many are bused. So there's close to 1,000 cars screaming in there in the morning, dropping off kids, on the way back out, early dismissal days, regular pickup times, regular drop-off times. The impact, I think, is dangerous. I wanted to come with some fresh information as well. I have letters here, since we did have this address at our neighborhood association on the 12th, from 3 residents that are long-time residents of Portola Park, and they've seen the impact that this has made with traffic. I also have a letter from a commissioner that was on this commission for 5 years, Phil Becerra, who's outlined some really strong points. I brought copies for everyone. Earlier today, I also sent an email to Ali, and hopefully you received the information about 2 videos. One was on CBS Channel 2 on your side, talking about the issues and the quality of life concerns of these types of projects. There was one up in LA, and there's also one in the San Fernando area, which I'll just go ahead and combine these here together. So you guys have a copy of that email with the sites where you can view the video and hear the concerns that was on the news. We have tried to be a good host to this applicant. Again, we've been dealing with this for 3 years. They've spoken several times at our neighborhood meetings. I have one of the earlier pieces of correspondence to the Santa Ana Unified School District dated January 26, 2016, as well as a copy of the flyer for our last neighborhood association meeting, which was on February 12th. The bottom line is that with the traffic concerns, the safety concerns, the impact of the quality of life, this is a project that should not go into our neighborhood.
Thank you, Winston.
All right, thank you.
Great. Okay. Michael Gadd.
Commissioners, my name is Michael Gadd. I own the Fantastic Cafe, and I'm here in support of the car wash. Now, because it's a drive-through car wash, I don't expect a great increase in my business, so why am I supporting the car wash? Well, I have to look at the car wash vis-a-vis what's there today. What's there today is a wreck of a building. It attracts crime, drugs, homeless, trash, all kinds of things. It doesn't help my business at all. 17th Street is a great street, and it needs a renaissance. Now, it's nice to look at these projects in the abstract. So you're going to hear about traffic. Well, if you turn this project down, they're going to come with another project, and you're going to hear traffic on the next project too. So if you put a Starbucks in there, what's going to happen? You're going to have more cars than the car wash. So you can't simply think about this in terms of just the car wash. What's the alternative? That building needs to go. That building is an eyesore and a neighborhood waste of space. So I'm hoping that the car wash is what ignites the renaissance on 17th Street, and we can see it come back to what it used to be. So thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Michael. Does anyone else at this time want to speak on this particular item? If so, please come forward. And okay, what I'd like you to do is state your name and where you live, and if you would, then fill out a card when you finish your speech.
Yes, my name is Bill Conklin,
Could you
and
hold on 1 second? We just have to restart we need to restart the clock. Okay? Good. Go ahead.
yes, my name is Bill Conklin. I live in the city of Orange. I live close to the Rapids Car Wash that's been discussed a little bit here today, the one on Meats and Tustin. I know the owners of the furniture store right next door to the Rapids Car Wash, and they actually have a lawsuit now against the car wash because of noise issues, lighting issue, especially because of customers that are leaving the car wash and they go next door and want to finish towel drying their car off because there's no vacuum stations available. A car wash like Rapids will do anywhere from 1,000 to 1,200 cars a day. That's way more cars than a Starbucks. I'm sorry, but that was inaccurate information, that what was just presented. Right now, the lawsuit that they have is related to people from the car wash not only drying their cars in their parking lot and then getting out the whole wax kit and waxing them and all of this stuff, but also using setups, little setups in their garden area for their customers. They sell patio furniture, and throwing their cigarette butts away, just all kinds of issues like that. It's not just residential neighborhoods that have problems with these busy express car washes. These are not like a Starbucks. They're not like some other things that could be put in that location. These are very busy locations. Typically, an express car wash will do over 100 cars an hour on a busy day. That's 1,200 cars a day. It's a lot of traffic in and out, and of course that's going to be impacted by that extra light put at Mayberry and 17th. So I don't live in this area, but I'm very aware of what these kinds of car washes do, and I do have experience with the car wash at Tustin and Meats.
Meats, right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. If you'd fill out a card, please. Could you state your name and where you live?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the Commission. My name is Pat Gibson. I'm president of Gibson Transportation. My offices are in downtown Los Angeles. We worked with the city staff to prepare the traffic impact report for this project. We worked with them to set the scope, to set the methodology, and to put together what staff wanted to see to measure the effects of this project. This particular car wash is much less busy than a Starbucks. This particular car wash has a capacity of 500 cars a day. The estimates based on national standards are that this car wash will have 30 cars in and 30 cars out in the peak hour. That's one car every 2 minutes in and one car every 2 minutes out. The key, we've changed the circulation pattern for this project so that cars don't come out on the Mayberry. We looked at, the last gentleman talked about drying your car and polishing your car in surrounding properties. This particular site plan has that all on site. It's all self-contained. But the biggest issue here, when we talk about the school and we talk about the safety, the biggest issue here is installing a traffic signal that will allow traffic to safely get in and out of that school. In fact, the traffic signal really is for the safety of the neighborhood and the safety of the school traffic more than it is for the car wash itself. This is an amenity, a very expensive amenity, but an amenity that is going to be put in for the school and the community more so than for the car wash. The car wash has a driveway located away from that intersection. The city staff asked us to do video simulations of what the car wash would look like in terms of queuing, what the street queues would look like to make sure that the two traffic signals that would be located on 17th will work. They were satisfied with all of the simulation, all of the analysis. We have a project that does not create significant impacts for the neighborhood and that will assist that school in increasing the safety and increasing the convenience for the parents coming to pick up and drop off their kids. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Thank you, Pat. Appreciate that. Okay. At this point in time, hearing that we have no one else that would like to speak on this item.
Can I offer one more suggestion?
Sure, Chris.
So I would offer a suggestion maybe to put into the conditional use permit. They're talking about the lighting. That lighting is LED motion censored lighting. So it's not like it's lit up 24/7 or anything. What that'll actually do is it'll actually help with some of the homelessness and some of the problem that's on the corner should those people decide to come in there. There's also like a 32-point camera system that is automatically triggered and sent to the police department and the fire department to help control. And we are also putting in and volunteering to put in a patrol officer at night, we're going to volunteer a security guard to help mitigate some of the problems and try to be as community friendly and as proactive as possible. Mr. Coughlin, who owns the other Tustin car wash up the street, I can understand why he doesn't want this car wash. But, we don't allow people to wax their cars and detail the cars on the lot. We have a 5-minute time limit.
They don't do it on the lot. They do it on other businesses. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so
I'm sorry.
I can't control if somebody does waxes their car 2 blocks away from the car wash, but I'm just saying what we would allow on ours. So we have several measures, and the other thing I would put forward is that going through trash and all that, that's simple. We can easily put padlocks on the trash and bolt them down. And so, we're willing to do what we need to do to, try and mitigate anything, any potentialities that could come up. So I just want to put that in there for you guys.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Okay. At this point in time, the public hearing is closed.
Mr. Chairman, with respect to the commission, since the applicant was allowed a closing comment, may I do so?
The applicant was allowed 3 minutes as part of the public hearing, and that's why I gave him the 3 minutes, because we asked. The applicant has spoke already as the applicant, so this was a public hearing that he was speaking at this point in time. You spoke at this point in time for public hearing. Okay? Are we correct on that, Lisa? Okay. All right. So, Chris, you have to fill out a card as if you did a public hearing for a public hearing. So, currently the public hearing is closed. We'll bring it back to the commission. Does anybody have comment or motion at this point in time to make? David?
I'll start with a comment, Mr. Chair. Thank you. I want to thank all of the members of the public who came and addressed us, both in written form, those who came and addressed us here in person. Clearly, there are differing points of view, and there are pros and cons, frankly, to this project and 20 project. And that's part of what the commission is charged with is hearing and deciphering and thinking through the impacts, both impacts, adverse impacts, and benefits from any project. I think as we heard both, again, the written communication and the communication today, what we have is an empty building. It's dated, been there for some time, not currently adding any benefit to the community. Rather, there are some negative impacts that it's currently having. It's time for this building to be changed out for something else. Whatever that something else is going to bring some impact. I think the key thing is have impacts, are impacts being mitigated by the proposed project. And based on what staff has presented, based on what was seen before in 2017 to what's being presented here today, a number of the issues and concerns I think are being mitigated. The two key things is noise and traffic. I could see where whenever you bring a signal light, it addresses traffic and concerns, and so the fact that this project is going to bring with it a signal light that will definitely help the local school and the neighbors there. I think that it's one of those added benefits. The fact that the noise, there's been a lot of thought into the noise mitigation, especially in light of some of the other projects that we've seen recently that have brought some concerns. Based on what staff has presented, that has been seen as a case, study to learn from, to be able to ensure that this one, the blowers are a different technology, are pointed toward the main street versus back towards where the residential area is. So all of those things, I think, weighing out, again, any project is going to bring impact. What I'm seeing here today is that the concerns are being mitigated to the degree that they can to minimize those impacts. It would bring benefit to just economic development, to improvement, to the aesthetics of that intersection. Therefore, at this point, I am inclined to consider this project as something that would bring, again, benefit to our city overall. I do have a follow-up question with regard to the noise, because that has been, I think, the primary issue. So for staff, do we have a way, how do we go about measuring noise levels and gauging what can be deemed as reasonable, if you will? Again, especially the main the backdrop here is that other project there at 17th and Baker that did bring initially a lot of problem. That was mitigated. We haven't seen or heard of the same levels of concerns from the residents there. So can you address how we'll be monitoring that?
Sure. I think we could approach this with two methods. The first would be to have the applicant and his professional noise study technical firm conduct the readings, because they have the state-of-the-art equipment that they use when they prepare these studies. So by conditioning them to go out 1 month and 1 year after occupancy and get us those readings, that's the first method. In order to also proactively, or at least verify, the city's police department is also in charge of enforcing the city's noise ordinance. And so in addition to what I just shared, the city's police department would also be the lead agency in terms of enforcement and measuring and liaising with the applicant and the community if that arose.
You mentioned the gauging and measuring at 1 month, 1 year. Is that a proposed or an idea that you're presenting, or is that currently incorporated as one of the conditions within the CUP?
That is listed as a conditional approval in the resolution. Correct.
Thank you.
Sure.
My questions for now, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Lynette?
I don't really have any questions other than just to make a comment.
Okay.
I sat on this body when we denied it in October 2017, because I did hear the concerns of the neighborhood regarding the Mayberry driveway and the traffic how that would impact Portola Park, and also the school. I had concerns also about the cut-through traffic in the alleyway. I'm happy to hear that at this point in time there's been several changes to the original proposal to mitigate those. I agree with Commissioner Benavides that I think the signal is going to make a huge improvement to the traffic flow on 17th. I'm happy that now we only have ingress and egress to 17th. And today, what's sitting there in that property is a complete eyesore, and it's of no benefit to anyone. I see that there is going to be an improvement putting some business on this property. Could it have been something better than a car wash? Absolutely, but I don't see that in the amount of time that that property has been empty. I don't see any other business owner that's willing to come in and build something in that property. This applicant has spent a tremendous amount of time to listen to the concerns of the neighborhood and to do whatever they could do, and still at this point in time is saying whatever I still need to do. If I need to get a security guard there at night, if I need to, I'm going to put cameras on the site. We have landscaping that's going to be a addition. You also talk to the neighboring business, Fantastic Cafe, that sees the traffic coming in and out and sees what's happening on that property and wanting to have something that's going to better serve that area. So I'm in a place right now, based on what we've done to condition this property, to move recommended action.
Do you want to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll be more than happy to. I'll recommend that the Planning Commission take the following actions. Adopt a resolution approving conditional use permit 2018-27 as conditioned to allow an automated car wash, and adopt a resolution approving variance 2018-13 as conditioned to allow a driveway within 150 feet of an intersection.
Second.
You're seconding. Okay. Any other Eric?
No.
I'll make a comment.
Go ahead.
I just want to say that, I like facts, and I know Redondo Beach already took a chance on the applicant. So I don't know if it's okay to table this so people can visit and actually make sure that how the noise has been set, it's actually how it has been held. Because I don't know. I heard that's how it happens, and the community thinks it's noisy. So it is a fact that you guys are already operating, and if there's maybe a staff member or if the commission can visit or the council members can visit, I think that's how we get the facts, by getting those reports.
Right now there's a motion and a second.
I'd like to have them make a comment.
I was making a recommendation.
Commissioner, if I may, one of our staff members, Ali Peshkabor, has been to the Redondo Beach site, so he can report on that if you'd like.
I love that. Thank you.
Hallie? Just for clarification, also realize that on the October meeting, it was noted that anybody could go from the audience or from the commission to go to that Redondo Beach car wash and see what it is all about. So that was already on the table as an offer back in October. It's just been offered again. Hallie, go ahead.
Sure. I have visited the car wash there. A lot of what I experienced, just typical weekend midday, was corroborated by what the applicant shared. I know it's anecdotal, but as a city official, I visited there not in that capacity, but I just was in the area. I have a family member who lives in that city, and so I just took the opportunity to visit after the applicant shared that he had a second car wash there to verify what he was saying. So that's all.
How is the noise level and what you experienced?
Every car wash is going to have some level of noise, but based on my experience comparing to other car washes that had older technology, it was a different form. There are also single-family homes that abut that car wash, if I recall correctly, and so it was, similar context as well.
Were they in similar distances? Because the one that's on Tustin and Meats, for instance, there's a church behind it, so there's a big buffer from that standpoint, and the apartments are probably at least 5 or 6 times further away than where the apartments are in this particular case.
Sure. If the commission wishes, I could pull up an aerial and show it to the commission. We can compare, but nonetheless, there were single-family residential units next to the car wash, if I remember correctly. So.
Okay. All right. Lynette?
Can I, Ali, for one point of clarification that I had in my notes, when the car wash at 17th and Baker came up, it didn't have any discretionary action by this body. Is that correct?
That is correct. I can provide further detail if you'd like.
And secondly, because my point is that there wasn't the ability to mitigate noise based on that project, because it went from a car wash to an automated car wash. We have the opportunity on this project to actually ask or require the applicant to do these other measures that they've agreed to, which in particular to the actual car wash, where that one is, like you said earlier, has glass, and it just, the noise, the way it was built, the materials is a lot different than what we're going to see on this one.
That is correct. In summary, the Zaru car wash was more of a rebuild. The applicant did not have to go through a discretionary process because it was utilizing the city's non-conforming code for basically rebuilding and remodeling an existing car wash. But this project is different from a procedural standpoint because it has to come as a brand new use to this body with conditions of approval and the ones that you've read in the proposed resolution. So it's different procedurally.
Thank you.
I would like to express my appreciation for the applicant, your willingness to invest in our city and work for our city staff, even you've been denied in 2017, coming back with a redesign and one single entry and all that. And also the project, in my opinion, the project have met all the requirements specified in C5 zoning, district-related proposed use of that particular lot, and they comply with our applicable development standard, including parking, landscaping, setback, and signage for the city. And also the single driveway will create no significant impact for the proposed traffic signal and once installed. On top of that, for the economic development benefit to the city, would generate tax revenue, sales tax revenue, temporary job, as well as service to the community. For that, I would support your project.
Anybody else? I'll just say a couple of comments, and starting out with, I think if we look at this project and we look at school traffic, we look at traffic in general, I think Mr. Gadd made the comment earlier that, there needs to be a renaissance on 17th Street, and the fact is that, there does need to be a renaissance and when you have something of that nature, it's going to bring traffic and it's going to bring other things that we have all noted as tonight as being issues for what we've got. I think that the fact that the project has been abandoned for so long, and this is the one and only seemingly solution that we have at this point in time, it seems to me that we need to, look hard to see why we can't take away the fact that, again, schools have issues with picking up and dropping off students. We all see that. Every school in the district has that issue. I think the biggest thing that concerns me is the apartments that are adjacent to the facility. Not just because we talked a lot tonight about all the things that have been done to mitigate the car wash, but what I haven't heard anybody talk about is when I've got 10, 15, 20 vacuums going that are actually in a closer proximity to the apartments than the car wash itself, that seems to be a challenge. I mean, no one has ever said anything has been done about that. But I also, we've got to work through this, and if Richard wants to sit there and say that if this doesn't work on the day it's open, and it doesn't open, I think the neighborhood ought to take up that challenge. That's something that if we want to put it into a developer's agreement, if there's a willingness to do something like that, then maybe we can do something. Ali, is that possible?
So procedurally, if I'm interpreting the feedback that you're sharing correctly, and correct me if I'm wrong, but one could interpret that to be like almost like a test run before they open to the public, and then kind of invite the community to listen.
It's called a soft opening.
Yeah, maybe with or without compensation from the public, right? Just like a test run.
It's a soft opening that everybody comes in and says, okay, they're going to run through the drill and
Sure.
do everything, and it doesn't cost anybody anything, and if at the end of the day it works, it works. If it doesn't work,
So I'd like to just invite the applicant to provide his feedback if he's okay with the condition of a soft opening. And then, Lisa, do you have any?
So, yeah, in a sense, that's fine, but let me clarify what that might look like. So what we did at Redondo Beach is those single-family units are $1.5 million condominiums that are 90 feet setback. They are a lot closer than these apartments are. So what the city mandated is that we turn on all the equipment, and we have a sound test, and we run the decibel meters. And it has to meet a certain decibel level at the property line. And so what Redondo Beach did is actually hired an outside independent sound acoustical engineer besides our acoustical engineers that all came in, and then he officially wrote a report. And it wasn't until that report was turned in and signed off that we were allowed to get our certificate of occupancy. That is probably the most streamlined, methodical, logical way to do it instead of,
So from your standpoint, can we also request that whoever did the study that was your Redondo Beach study, that the same group do the same study at this location?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it was a group. It was a very well-known acoustical engineering group out of San Francisco. So they were flown down so as to be as impartial as possible. And they were hired by the city. We, in fact, weren't allowed to pick the acoustical consultant.
That's fine.
Yeah. So that's probably what I would suggest that we do here. And what we would simply do is turn on all the vacuums, which incidentally are in a separate room, soundproofed room, where the vacuum motors is. When then we turn on the blower, we run all the car wash equipment as if there's a car going through, and then we measure the sound at different points with different heights. It's very scientific, but I was able to get that passed with flying colors on condominiums that were much closer than what we're dealing with here. We could also raise the wall up in the back too if you guys want to, from 8 foot to 10 foot or something. We're happy to do that. And we'll line that with Pyrock acoustic material as well. So,
yeah, I mean, we had a car wash that came in front of the commission probably about a year ago on Bristol, and it was a much bigger setback from the standpoint of where the car wash was going to be and where single-family homes were. And I believe we went with how high of a wall? The car wash hasn't been built yet, but
the project was proposed with 8 feet. The commission then conditioned it to go to 10 feet.
10 feet.
But just for edification, the community, a lot of them felt a little bit of buyer's remorse over a 10-foot high wall looming over their backyard. Just to put that on the record.
Right, but the project itself hasn't happened either, so okay. So we're at an 8-foot wall at this point in time.
Correct.
All right, from the standpoint of the two items that I've put out there, is that something that we will consider, and do I have to make that as an amendment to the motion?
You'd have to make it as an amendment to the motion to add those conditions to the conditions we have here. We do have a noise study on condition number 12. I don't know if you want to add the language about the sound test with the decibel meters by the acoustical report that needs to be turned in before the CBO would be issued.
Right.
We can add that there to number 12. And then what was the other item? You want to make the
other issue is the soft opening. It says, does this work? If it doesn't work, what do you do?
The way that the condition is currently drafted is you do have that noise study being prepared prior to our signing off the CFO, which would allow them to operate. We're suggesting now, and that is done by the applicant's sound engineer. What is being suggested on the table now is to have a separate sound engineer come, paid for by the applicant, but hired by the city.
Correct.
To double check. So we would have to double check the applicant sound engineer's work.
Well, I'm asking for the specific one that Redondo Beach used as a means of just consistency, if it's feasible.
Yeah, it's fine. I'll get a hold of him. He's up in San Francisco, very reputable guy.
Yeah. If it's feasible, then why can't we do that?
Yes, that is feasible. Yeah.
Okay, did we cover it at this point in time?
Yes.
So my question is, can we make that as a friendly amendment to the original? Lynette?
Yes.
You good?
That's fine. So what it is that at the applicant cost, the city will hire the acoustical engineer company that will do the test prior to the CFO being issued. Okay. Yes.
Okay.
Second.
Okay. All right. Any other comments, questions of staff? No? Okay. Then we'll move it to a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 7-0. Motion passes. Okay, this is the time and place to consider item number 2, tentative track map 2018-01 to allow 2 existing parcels to be subdivided into 6 new parcels, a private street, in order to facilitate the construction of 6 new single-family residential units located at 1514 and 1516 North English Street in the single-family residential R1 zoning district. Does any commissioner need anything to disclose at this point in time? Okay. Jerry?
Good evening, Chairman, members of the Plan Commission. Before you is an application for a subdivision for a tenant tract map number 2018-01 to allow a subdivision at 1514 and 1516 North English Street. Again, the request is pretty much for a subdivision. The project scope includes the demolition of 2 existing single-family homes, the subdivision of 2 existing single-family residential parcels into 6 lots, and as well as the construction of a private street to facilitate the construction of 6 new single-family residents. The project is located between 17th Street and 15th Street off of English Street, as indicated by the red triangle as being depicted on the aerial. The current zoning of the property is R1, which allows for single-family residential units, and the general plan of the property is low-density residential, which allows for 7 units per acre. The subject site is surrounded primarily by single-family residential units to the north, south, east, and west, with a portion of commercial uses adjacent to the northwest portion of the property. And as previously mentioned, the property is currently developed with 2 single-family residential units. This is a site photo of the subject parcels. Just based on the image, you can see that the parcel has a fairly large, decent side frontage, and it's currently underutilized. The applicant's proposing to subdivide 2 existing parcels into 6 residential lots with the inclusion of the private street. Each of these parcels meets our current minimum lot size of 6,000 feet and do comply with the minimum frontage requirements of 50 feet. In addition to that, each of these single-family residential units have been designed to comply with the development standards outlined within the single-family residential R1 zoning district. Each single-family home measures approximately 2,700 square feet. Each unit would have 4 bedrooms with approximately 3.5 bathrooms, a 2-car garage, as well as 2 additional paved parkings along the designed driveways. Next, this is an example of some of the elevations. Each of these single-family homes were designed differently and all have different architectural styles to kind of resemble the mixed match of different architectural styles that are found throughout the neighborhood. Again, the units are 2 stories in height. Maximum, I believe, the highest pitch will be at 27 feet, which is what is allowed per code. So this is something similar and consistent with what's allowed through the other single-family residential units that are adjacent to these proposed subdivision parcels. As stated, the project does comply with the R1 standards as well as the density allowed by the general plan, which allows for 7 units per acre. The proposed subdivision does comply with the Chapter 41 zoning regulations as well as Chapter 34, which dictates the requirements for subdivision, and it's also in compliance with the California State Subdivision Map Act. As proposed, the designs as well as the mass of the single-family residential units is compatible with the existing vicinity. And with that, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission approve tentative tract map number 2018-01 as conditioned, and I'll feel free to answer any questions that the Commission might have.
Does anybody have any questions of Jerry at this point in time? No? Thank you, Jerry. Good job. Okay. Madam Secretary, have we received any written communication on this item?
We have received 2 letters in opposition. Those have been distributed to the Commission and also posted on our website.
Okay, thank you. Would the applicant at this point in time like to speak on the item? Is the applicant here? Okay. Okay. I'm asking the question, is the applicant here, Jerry?
But he doesn't want to speak.
And you don't need to speak? No. Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. All right. With that, we'll open up the public hearing. I have several cards here. Raul Ortiz.
Good evening. My name is Raul Ortiz. I live on 1508 English Street, directly south, next to the parcel. I'm in for something being built there. Honestly, it is an eyesore. It's underutilized. But in the back, it just needs to be cleaned up. Something needs to go up. It's a huge lot. My concern is, I have 2 concerns. 2-story building, how close is it going to be to our lot line? If it's 5 feet, we're in the backyard and everything, and I have a 2-story building that's, it has a window, it's going to be looking all, over us. That's a bit uncomfortable. That's one of my concerns. I'm hoping you guys take that into consideration. Also, parking. Parking on English Street is, I'm very fortunate that there's only 4 people in our house, and we only have 2 cars, and they fit perfectly in my driveway. But there's other concerns with people that do need to use the street, and they live in the neighborhood, and there's no parking because people a block away from the apartments. They have the needs for more parking, and they come when they drop their cars off on Friday, and they leave it all the way till Sunday or Monday. Maybe later down the road we're going to ask for permit parking. I'm not sure, but I'm not sure on this fact. But one of my neighbors were saying that they wouldn't be allowed to park on the street that's going to be built there. That's a concern for me because if there is more than a single family that lives there, there's going to be obviously more cars And if they're not allowed to park on that street, they're going to start looking for street parking on English Street, which is already non-existent. So it's just more cars in the area. So I'm for some sort of construction there, but maybe revisit if they're allowed to use their street to park so that they can put their cars there. I wouldn't have a problem with it. But yeah, 2-story building, right next to our lots. That's a little bit concerning for me. I'd like to see a little bit more of the architecture, and I haven't gone into the site and looked at anything if there's anything up there. But that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Raul. Marco Ramirez.
Yes, hi, good evening. Yeah, I live at 1606 English Street, and that's the property that's adjacent on the north side. So I'm just on the other side of the previous speaker. And as he mentioned, parking is a major, major issue on our street. There's people that live in I think the Solaria apartments on 17th and also the apartments on the other side of 17th. They're limited to the number of cars that they can park at their apartment complex, and so they park on our street continuously. And as he mentioned, we have lots of people will park there on a Friday and leave it over the weekend. Big concern. And as he mentioned too, according to the tract map that we've seen, there's little to no parking on the private street that's going to be created. So that causes a concern. 2 of the homes are being built front facing, which I think is a good idea, but in reality that's going to create more of an issue in terms of those people are going to tend to park on the street as opposed to driving around into their driveway, which are on the backside of their houses. And so that's a real concern, because as it is, I don't believe we just can absorb any more parking on our street. Fact about our community is that a lot of people, in order to be able to afford the houses, you've got multiple families living in them. And it's not uncommon to have 2 families living in a house, buying it. And that's going to mean that many more cars. I'm not against that. People have to do what they have to do in order to afford the homes. But that's something that we would have to live with on that street. In terms of traffic, traffic has gotten a lot worse. As you guys may know, Santa Ana College took over College Avenue, and ever since then, a lot of that traffic flow is going down through English, and so that's created quite a mess. It's sometimes even dangerous to back out or get into your your driveway. I disagree with city staff. Of course, this is just my opinion, but it's true that none of our houses are similar in design. I think every house has got a different architectural style. But these are massive complexes. I mean, these are each house has got a 4-bedroom. The average size is 2,700 square feet. I think the average size of the other houses on the block would probably be around 1,600 square feet. And so they are going to stick out like a sore thumb. I don't know. So that's my concern. But aside from that, the fact that I purchased my house about 16 years ago, and it's not the best neighborhood, but it's got a large lot. Okay, it's got an extremely large lot. That's what I bought it for. We've done a lot of work back there, and I would hate to have this neighbor, which according to the plan is only 5 feet setback away from the house, with two structures overlooking my backyard.
Thank you,
and
Mark.
privacy.
Appreciate it, Mark.
Issues. Okay.
Jose Arena? Sarabi.
Good evening. I live on 2015 West 15th Street, on the other street, and my property connects on the southwest of that property. And the property line is encroaching my property. I just want to make sure they align it when they build a wall, if they're going to build a wall, and how high it's going to be the wall.
Okay.
That's all I want to say. I'm okay with those houses. So.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that, Jose. Does anyone else like to speak on this item? Hearing none, we're going to close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission. If we might, Jerry, I'd like to ask you a couple of questions before we...
Yes.
There was obviously a couple of things that came up in the whole, and I didn't hear it in the presentation, but I'm assuming by the drawings, there's at least 4 parking spaces per house?
That's correct. That is what the city code requires, is 2 parking spaces inside a garage and 2 additional paid parking spaces along the driveway. So each of these units complies with that requirement.
Right. So that's one thing, but is there going to be any parking whatsoever, guest parking or any parking on the circle itself?
So the private street, as designed as a cul-de-sac, is actually meant for fire access as well. So portions of the cul-de-sac will be available for street parking, but that street parking is going to be only available for these 6 units.
And what does that represent in the number of parking spaces?
You might get a couple, maybe like 4 additional parking spaces off the cul-de-sac.
4 additional parking spaces?
Correct.
For the entire
For the
project?
entire 6 units, correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Jerry.
Another question, Jerry.
Oh, go ahead.
Jerry, I also agree with one of the speakers that when you put the properties facing the street, then it encourages people to want to park in front of the entrances. I mean, that's just nature of the beast. And if I'm very familiar with this area, there already is a tremendous amount of cars parked on English. So is there, would there be any consideration of facing those entrances onto the private street rather than onto English? Or was that a staff recommendation? And
That
so
was a staff recommendation. So both the corner proposed single-family homes do have access off of the interior of the proposed private street via the driveway, as well as a man door that faces the proposed private street. But the reason why staff recommended the primary entrances to face off English Street is to create more of a street presence and not to neglect English Street. So we want to keep the eyes on the streets, and this will kind of help assist in creating that environment that the city is desiring to keep an active lookout for all corners of a property.
Yeah, because if you go down the street further down towards like Merriday Lane, the houses have they face Merriday, not English. So would there be an issue of changing that?
There's no issue to that recommendation, correct?
Okay, and then secondly, to the question regarding how far from the property lines, in particular lot 4 and 5, how far is that setback from the wall, their backyards?
So all of these properties need to have a minimum setback of 20 feet.
Which they meet.
Which they meet, correct. Some of them have 20, some of them are providing a little bit more setback.
Okay.
So for example, lot 3 has a greater rear setback.
Right, 3 has a bigger one. Okay, so that is actually not an issue because they're meeting the minimum setback.
Correct. I think one of the issues or concerns that one of the audience members made a comment was with regards to lot number 6. So since that is a corner lot, we have to look at the frontage, and per definition, the frontage of this property is actually off of English Street. So per definition of our code, the narrative's width of your lot is your frontage. So that's 20 feet, and then you have 5 feet up against the north PL, and then the second floor is set back an additional 3 to 5 feet, so you do have that buffer of the second story. In addition to that, we do take a close look at the location of these bedrooms. That bedroom actually has a higher window height, so you won't be able to see into the neighbor's backyard unless you're physically standing there. And then the other window there are for bathrooms and a closet.
So on lot 1 and 6, their setback to the property line is 5 feet?
The side setback, correct.
the side setback because it's on the side of the house.
That's
And
correct.
what's the requirement for a side setback?
5 feet.
Yikes. So if I live in that other property next to it, they're like right there.
Correct. That's the standard throughout the R1 zoning district. 5 feet.
But they're, okay. Okay.
David?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to clarify with regard to setback, or the side, I guess the side setback, if you will, the properties, so at any of the existing properties already, homes already have that same 5-foot setback requirement.
Correct. That's the standard for throughout the city. Correct.
And it sounds like the relevant concerns that some of the neighbors came and addressed as far as the visibility into the yard, but it sounds like that staff has intentionally already looked at that as part of the design and the architectural with regard to.
That is correct, yes.
And with regard, going back to the comment or questions about the frontage, the house frontage towards English Street, I understand the rationale behind that, which I would agree with, as far as staff rationale to ensure that essentially, if you're a neighbor, you're walking down your neighborhood along English, you don't necessarily want just a flat wall that you're walking along, but rather it's that sense of neighborhood by having a home there that faces that street. So I see that the benefit to that. The question with regard to one of the residents referenced the encroaching on their property. I imagine that all of that gets figured out as part of just the process, the permitting, the titles, verifying all of that. That's going to be addressed.
That is correct. So any walls that are encroaching into existing single-family lots will have to be removed and comply with the actual property dimensions. The applicant is proposing an exterior fence that kind of outlines throughout the proposed single-family home. So that's a requirement. It's going to be a 6-foot high fence.
Okay. And the other question that we already addressed, the four designated parking spaces available on the properties themselves, with an additional, several, 4 to 6 to be shared amongst the others.
That is correct.
Amongst all the properties. So that also per code and
yes,
per city code. It looks like a lot of the just some of the renderings. It's an over 1,000. I mean, it's about a 1 acre.
The combined two lots right now, it's 1.2 acres.
1.2 acres. So clearly everything is per code over 6,000 square feet. A lot of the questions have been mitigated and addressed. So thank you. That's my question.
Jerry, one question I have is, this project it started back in 2014, and is there any reason why we're now in 2019 and we're just seeing this project? Is there any particular situation that we're missing any information on?
No, I mean, a lot of it had to do with the technical analysis of the map, as well as the design and the massing of these footprints. So the applicant did go back and forth with planning staff as well as public works staff to meet all the requirements of not only our design requirements, our zoning requirements, but also to comply with the Subdivision Map Act.
Okay, and the other thing that was brought up also was the fact that, I mean, the vast majority of the architecture in that neighborhood is ranch homes, and, certain styles of ranch homes. And the fact that this is going to be, looks like a Spanish design, how well is that blending into the fabric of the rest of the neighborhood?
So when we talk about design, obviously we're now living in Irvine, where you have these homes that are kind of all very aesthetically similar. So when we look at subdivision proposals like this, we do require that each of the units have a different aesthetics in terms of architecture. So we do have a lot of craftsman, Spanish, and Victorian homes around this area, but not technically adjacent to it. But again, The neighbors to the right or to the left or the south or the north of this could potentially come in and propose to build a second-story addition, which we then had to review based in terms of compliance with our R1 standards, which allows for a 27-foot high, two-story single-family home. And they, at that time, also have the ability to propose their own unique architectural style. So it's not uncommon to see the differentiations between architectural styles.
Okay. Any other questions of Jerry at this time? Okay.
I'd like to move the item, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Dave.
Move the item.
All right, you ready? Okay.
Or are we still public hearing?
At this point in time, do we have a motion for this particular item? David, you want to make a motion?
Yes. Do you require that the whole, I guess this is my first attempt at making a motion as a planning commissioner here with this body, so.
Well, here, why don't I do it?
Go ahead.
And then you
I'll
can
second.
How's that? You go there.
Okay, I'll do it. You can second. Yeah, no. It's, I'll make a motion that the planning commission adopt a resolution approving tentative track map number 2018-01 as conditioned.
And I will second that
Okay.
motion, Mr. Chair.
All right. Any other comments at this point in time?
I just had a comment.
Yes, go ahead.
When I look at lot number 6, and I look at the size, that is the largest of the 6.
Right.
And I understand, okay, that we should probably put the frontage along English to have a more integrating into the neighborhood, so I'm not going to push that any further, but I really am concerned that lot 6 has a square footage of 2770. That's bigger than all the other units, and it's really up against the neighbor on the wall. So I mean, if I was a neighbor, I'd really be concerned about that. I think if you look at the rendition of the whole neighborhood, I think all the other ones are pretty safe in the proximity to the neighbors and being two-story. But that one I just have really big concerns about it being right there and being the largest of all of them. So I didn't know if there's anything that could be done to recommend, that we could recommend that to be either a smaller unit or not so close up against that. The setback could be further, or if we have any discretionary opinions about that. If not, tell me right now. I can.
Well,
it actually meets the standards.
It meets all the standards.
It is acceptable.
So right now, the decision is just about subdividing the tentative tract map.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
But one question is, again, go back to, on that side, how many windows are actually on that side of that particular building, that particular unit?
And you mean on the second story?
Yeah, any story. I mean, first story or second story. I mean, just, how is it? It may be just an alley that has no windows or bathroom windows. Jerry?
So for the second story, there are proposed to be 3 windows on that elevation, the north elevation, for lot 6, which is a bedroom, and then you have a master bathroom and closet. So the windows for the closet and for the bathroom are obviously smaller, and they're usually placed a little higher. So that's kind of standard for most bathrooms and closets in Santa Ana.
So you have a bedroom window at this point in time that's...
Correct.
Okay. All right. Any other questions or comments? I've got one take for you. You can sit down. You don't have to come up. Mm-hmm. It's just one. The question is, I went down English Street today, and I started going down there, and I went there, and I said, okay, am I north or south? And I said, okay, I'm on north. But the sign, 1400 English Street, says south. We'll get that fixed. Thank you. Because it confused the hell out of me. Okay. No further discussion at this point in time. We'll make the motion has been made in a second. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? 7-0. Thank you. Now is the time to and place to consider item number 3, conditional use permit.
Mark,
Yes.
before you do that, I'm sorry. Could Jerry, could he just talk to the one of the speakers that was concerned about the wall adjacent to his property? Okay, thank you.
No, that's good. By the way, also.
Thank you.
Before we get into this, Sarah, we got 720, Cynthia Contreras. Okay, gotcha. Thank you. All right, let me go back. Again, this is, now's the time and place to consider item number 3, conditional use permit number 2018-24 to allow the sale of alcoholic beverages, beer and wine for on-premise consumption at the existing eating establishment located at 2841 West MacArthur Boulevard, Unit B, in the Arterial Commercial C5 zoning district. Does anyone have anything to disclose at this point in time? No? Okay. Pedro?
Good evening, Chairman and members of the Commission. The third item for consideration tonight is a request for approval of a conditional use permit to allow the sale of beer and wine and on-premise consumption at an existing Blaze Pizza restaurant located at 2841 West MacArthur Boulevard, Unit B. The subject site is located on the northeast corner of an existing commercial shopping center on MacArthur Boulevard and Fairview Street. The commercial shopping center is currently developed with various commercial buildings with multiple tenants. The general plan designation is general commercial, and the zoning designation is arterial commercial. The site is surrounded by single-family uses to the north, multifamily uses to the east, commercial and single-family to the south, and industrial offices to the west. Blaze Pizza is currently occupying approximately 2,300 square feet of tenant space in a multi-tenant commercial building. The restaurant currently accommodates approximately 73 patrons within its dining area, which consists approximately of 1,100 square feet. The restaurant operates Monday through Sunday from 10 a.m. to 11 p.m., and all alcoholic beverages will be stored within the restaurant's cooler and service counter areas, which will be less than 15 square feet in size, which is less than 0.01% of the overall square footage of the tenant space. Both storage and display areas, as mentioned, will be less than that percentage. Staff has determined that the proposed project will benefit the community by providing a restaurant with additional and complementary food-related amenities. We've determined that the proposed project will not be detrimental to the health, safety, or general welfare, and will be in compliance with all applicable regulations, operations standards imposed on a restaurant selling alcoholic beverages for on-premise consumption pursuant to the municipal code. Therefore, staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve conditional use permit 2018-24 as condition. I don't believe the applicant owner is not here, but we have a representative that may be available to answer some questions, and staff will be available to answer questions as well.
Okay, thank you, Pedro. Does the Commission have any questions of Pedro? Thank you. At this point in time, Madam Secretary, have we received any written communication on this item?
No written communication received.
Okay. The public hearing will now be open. I do not have any cards at this time. Hearing none, we'll close the public hearing. And last thing, would the applicant at this point in time, or the representative, would they like to say something at this time? No? Okay. All right. We'll bring it back to the Commission. Do we have a motion? Lynette?
I'll move that we adopt a resolution approving conditional use permit number 2018-24 as conditioned.
I'm 10 second.
Okay. Any discussion on the item? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? 6-0 with one absent, Cynthia Contreras-Leo. This is the time and place to consider item number 4, conditional use permit for number 2019-06 to allow drive-through window service at the proposed eating establishment located at 2250 East 17th Street in the community commercial C1 zoning district. Does any of the commissioners have anything to disclose at this time? No? Hearing none. Is Jerry? Ready,
all right, Commissioner Chairman, this is an application on behalf of Raising Cane to construct a new restaurant with a drive-through. They're requesting approval for conditional use permit number 2019-06 at 2250 East 17th Street. So the project scope involves the demolition of an existing restaurant, or known as Claim Jumper. They vacated the site a couple of months ago. The proposal is to construct a new Raising Cane, approximately 3,935 square feet, with sit-down dining, as well as a drive-through and outdoor patio. The site's located at the southwest corner of Tustin Avenue and 17th Street, as outlined in green on the aerial being displayed. Again, this is the former site of the Claim Jumper restaurant, and the improvements include the demolition of that project and the construction of a new restaurant. The parking lot just to the south of that will remain intact. There's no proposed alterations for the parking lot as part of this application. This is a site view of the current building. Again, will be demolished as part of this application. So this is the proposed site plan for the parcel. I did not include the bottom portion of the parking stalls. Just kind of want to provide this since the larger site plan, but just south to the proposed building, you do have the 88 parking stalls that are going to be associated to this proposed restaurant. And again, this is a shared parking agreement, so the other tenants of the shopping center do have access to these parking stalls and vice versa. So the proposal is basically for a new sit-down restaurant with a drive-through component. The applicant is proposing the primary entrance to be through the interior of the existing parking stalls, which is kind of depicted. I don't have a pointer with me, but it's right adjacent to the proposed outdoor sitting area. And then you do have two secondary entrances off of Tustin Avenue as well as 17th Street. This is the proposed elevations of the building. The elevation to your top left is the elevation that will be facing the interior of the shopping center, which does include enhanced tower elements to kind of depict and know where the primary entrance is located at. The architecture of the building has been designed to resemble that of the existing architectural style of the shopping center, but they did also add some additional modern contemporary elements to kind of enhance it and to be a little bit more uniform with the other Raising Cane's restaurants throughout SoCal. So this project is here before this body because we do require conditional use permit approval for drive-throughs. So they are proposing a drive-through. Maybe I should go a little bit to the site plan afterwards to kind of elaborate more on that. But as proposed, the project does meet all of the development standards of the C1 General Commercial Zoning District, and it does also meet the city's requirement for stacking and queuing. And as proposed, the proposed drive-through will accommodate an additional 10 vehicles in addition to what the state or the city requires. So just going back to the site plan, the drive-through kind of wraps around Tustin and then circulates off 17th Street, and you exit off of the drive-through lane that's kind of shaded in dark gray for you. That's kind of the exit of the drive-through. And with that, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission approve conditional use permit number 2019-06 as condition, and I'll feel free to answer any of your questions.
Does the commission have any questions of Jerry? I've got couple of questions, actually. You mentioned that there's 2 entrances off of Tustin Avenue?
There's 2 proposed secondary entrances, one off of 17 that faces 17th Street, and the other one faces Tustin. But the way they've designed it is kind of one secondary entrance, but there's 2 doors facing each street. If that makes any sense. Oh, I wish I had a pointer. So you have your primary entrance, which is north or south.
Okay, so you're talking about the entrance into the facility itself?
Correct, into the actual restaurant.
Okay, gotcha.
The entrances for their driveway approaches, they're using existing entrances off of Tustin and 17th Street, which are fairly distant from the intersection.
So the cars reach the queue. The queue starts on which side of the entrance is the queue starting?
Okay, so Is it right? It's probably losing its power, but I'll use the arrow. So this is the entrance of the proposed drive-through lane. So you have 2 lanes here that kind of taper down once you order, and then it turns into a single lane drive-through lane. Pay window, and then pick up window, and then you exit this way. And then everything to the south of this is the existing parking stalls.
So you're exiting off the top, or you're exiting back? It's a U.
It's a U-shaped design.
It's a U-shape.
Correct.
Because, I mean, one of the things that I've seen in the other facilities is at certain times of the day, I mean, I guess it's a good news thing, the traffic is out into the street. Now, this has got a little bit of a different layout to be there, but, you know, I mean, it also blocks the entranceways to getting into the facility if you decide to eat indoors rather than take out.
Right. So one of the reason why it's designed with 2 lanes is because Raising Cane's designed it purposely to accommodate their vehicle volume that they're expecting. So normally for a drive-through or an establishment of this size, you usually just have 1 lane. So that's why you have this design where it's 2 lanes and then it tapers into 1 lane to accommodate their demands.
And how many cars is that going to be in total?
The applicant could elaborate in terms of that and what they estimate in terms of peak hours, but the design for the as proposed will accommodate anywhere between 20 to 25 vehicles at a time.
Fair enough. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
I have a couple of follow-up questions. As far as the answers to how many vehicles are expected, I would say based on other restaurants that I've visited, and probably have a lot. The answer would be a lot. I think probably quite a few. But I think the fact that it's contained within the property versus the right. ingress egress out to the main streets. I do have a question with regard to the design. You showed the elevations, and I was trying to get a sense of what the top right drive-through elevation. And then the rear elevation. Which of these would be facing 17th Street and which would be facing?
So the bottom right will be facing 17th Street. Then your bottom left will be facing Tustin. The top left with the 1 number displayed will be facing the interior parking lot. And then the top right will be facing the other parking lot area.
So one of the question, so we have particularly the one that's going to be facing out towards the main streets. You have there's a large wall that's flat, doesn't have much on there, and just I wonder if there are, I've noticed in some other cases, some other similar type of establishments. We've had, I don't know if it's been by our requirement as a city or by just the design, the architecture, where there's been either a metal trellis of some sort or some other type of feature that adds a design aesthetic element to enhance, particularly again when it's facing out toward the street, so that it's not similar to the other project that was a residential. There we're talking about engaging the street by way of having doors towards the in that case English Street. In this case, is there the option to have additional some type of element to be able to enhance the aesthetic there? Is that, are we, I know at this point what we're talking about today is specific to I guess it is conditional use, right? So any thoughts with regard to the design and that, again, particularly those that are facing that street?
So as part of the development project review, we did take a look at that, and as included in your package, the landscape plan does refer that the applicant is going to be installing some shrubs and berms that will assist with covering that blank facade.
They're going to go that high?
Correct. Some of the shrubs and berms that are being proposed reach anywhere between 5 to 8 feet in height.
Interesting. Okay, that guess does help address, again, the main thing in my mind is just as you're walking down the street, driving down the street, just to allow for there's some type of softening and interaction, even if you will, towards the street and the aesthetic. The going back to actually the question with regard to traffic, it seems the vehicle traffic. Is there, I guess in essence, because it is a contained, that was the one when I saw the type of the business. It's great that it's the amount of a business that it generates, the interest. I anticipate once the doors open here, they're going to have quite a bit of patronage. The fact that it's contained, we don't anticipate any type of impact to either Tustin or 17th Street as far as the driveways?
So as part of the development project review, the applicant was requested to submit a focused traffic analysis, which is different than your technical or TIA analysis, and that came up with that no significant impact, so that's why it wasn't presented to the Planning Commission. So we don't anticipate any impacts to Tustin or 17th Street as designed.
Thank you. I think it'd be a welcome addition to the city. Thank you.
Anybody else have a question for Jerry? Okay, thank you, Jerry. Madam Secretary, have we received any written communication on this item?
We did receive one letter in opposition, which was distributed and posted to our website.
Thank you. Would the applicant like to speak at this point in time?
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Mick Meldrum with ICI Development Company. I'm here on behalf of the ownership of the shopping center. Tonight I brought the engineer and architect of the project with me today to help answer any questions you might have. We look forward to this project. It's the claim jumper, we were sad to see it go, but we do believe this is a good replacement. And I'm here to answer any questions.
Does the Commission have any questions of the applicant? Okay, no? Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right. We'll open it for public hearing at this point in time. Does anybody like to speak? Would anybody like to speak on this item at this point in time? I do not have any cards, so hearing none, we'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the Commission. Would anybody like to make a motion or discuss? Chair?
Okay.
Ken?
First, I would like to make a comment that I'm very happy to see Raising Cane. They have interest to invest in Santa Ana. Actually, the Raising Cane was one of my grandchildren's favorite restaurant. Every time we pick up them from school, they love your chicken finger. And then my personal interest in favorite is your called cane sauce. Actually, that was the best of everything. But anyway, the traffic, the location I visited, the one on Harbor Boulevard, the Costa Mesa, very well visited and very well supported by the local community and so on. And your interest in investing in Santa Ana, very commendable. For that, I would like to place the motion to approve the COP number 2019-06 as condition.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Lynette, second. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 6-0, one absent. Cynthia Contreras-Leo.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Okay, we will now move on to the work-study program. First work-study session will be to review and discuss vehicle miles traveled, VMT, as a measurement for evaluating future transportation impacts in accordance with Senate Bill number 743.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Zed Kakula. I'm with the City of Santa Ana's Traffic Engineering Section. We are here today to talk about the implementation of State Bill 743 in the city, which is related to VMT. To make sure that we comply with all the regulations, the city went ahead and hired Farrer & Pierce, a engineering firm that has extensive knowledge in everything related to SB 743. So what I want to do is actually introduce Jason Pack from Farrer & Pierce, who will actually be doing the presentation. After the presentation, we'll both be available to answer any questions you may have.
Good evening, Commission. As Zed mentioned, my name is Jason Pack. I'm a principal with Farrer & Pierce, and there is a lot of information in here, so I will try and get through it as succinctly as I possibly can, but do recognize if you do have any questions, please feel free to ask me, as this is an information sharing presentation. So what we want to talk about today is really try and provide some background and some understanding of Senate Bill 743. So we'll go through the purpose of the bill and the legislative intent that it had. We'll talk about how it changed CEQA and the CEQA guidelines and established new criteria for evaluating transportation impacts. We'll talk about some of the implications, at least from a CEQA perspective, of kind of changing the metric that we've traditionally used for evaluating traffic impacts. And then finally, we've done a variety of testing, if you will, and some information specifically related to Santa Ana that we'd like to share with you as well. So with that, this is a slide I like to show that talks about what I call the evolution of CEQA. So CEQA's been around for a long, long time. AB 32, which is the Global Solutions or Global Greenhouse Gas Law, went into effect a while back. SB 375 was a law that talked about linking transportation and greenhouse gas emissions through our RTP and SCS. AB 1358 is the Complete Street Act. And Senate Bill 743 is one of the recent legislative actions that's occurred to try and help evolve CEQA as we move forward to try and protect the environment. So when you look at Senate Bill 743, it really had key legislative intent, if you will. So the first one was that environmental impacts of traffic, noise, air pollution, et cetera, should still be mitigated through CEQA. But the second part, and this is the kind of those 3 bullet points that I wanted to highlight below, is that the legislative intent really wanted to make sure that we were appropriately balancing the needs of congestion management with the statewide goals specifically related to those 3 key areas. One is infill development. 2 is promotion of public health through transportation, through active transportation, walking, biking, things of that nature. And then finally, the reduction of greenhouse gas measures. So the state went ahead and directed the Office of Planning and Research, or OPR, to basically study this for numerous years, go out, do public outreach, and develop what they requested as what we call the new metric for traffic impacts specifically related to CEQA. So what SB 743 as implemented does is it says for CEQA analysis, you can no longer use level of service for CEQA impact, an environmental impact under transportation. And as such, we're replacing it with VMT, or vehicle miles of travel. So we'll get into that in a minute, but I do want to pause and make note that doesn't mean that you probably won't see level of service. We still want to evaluate it to look at our intersection capacity, look at access to projects. So you'll see it, but it'll be as a requirement of the city and the city's intent to look at it, as opposed to CEQA requiring it. So there's a distinction there. So one of the things that it does also talk about is really looking at methods, thresholds, guidance. How do you evaluate it? What are the tools that we should be looking to evaluate it? And it does change the mitigation focus when you are looking at VMT, and I'll get into that here in a minute. So why did OPR start doing this, or why did the state take it into account? And I like this slide. I actually stole this from OPR, but if you look at the street on the left from a level service perspective, if we look at it, we'd say that's level service A. It's got a ton of capacity, nobody's on it, that's great for moving traffic. Whereas the street on the right is a downtown somewhere, lots of pedestrian activity, lots of vehicles, a lot of interest in being there, and we'd say that's bad from a traffic perspective. So what OPR has done and what the state's done is it said, hey, we want to create vibrant places where people are, that generates traffic, and a lot of times when we put land use in those areas, it's good for the environment. We're shortening trips, people are able to walk. When we build stuff like what's on the left, people have to drive everywhere to get to their destination. That's not as great for the environment. So that's one of the big changes that this was really intended to take a look at. Another kind of unintended consequence, when we did look at level service, our mitigation was always widen an intersection, widen a road. What that in turns is makes it easier for people to drive. Then we induce travel. We make it easier for people to drive, so they do. And then VMT goes up, and we generate more greenhouse gas emissions, and that's bad for the environment. So these are some of the background on why it changed. So before I get into exactly what VMT is, I did want to provide a brief overview as to how this came about and what it's been going on. So believe it or not, it was actually the Senate bill was passed and signed into legislation back in 2013. So this is 6 years coming. In December 2018, just late last year, OPR finalized guidelines on how we should look at this. Also in December 2018, the Natural Resources Agency finished the rulemaking process to essentially finalize the update to the CEQA guidelines. And those CEQA guidelines have now been updated and essentially carry the weight of law. So the CEQA guidelines did have did identify essentially an opt-in period to implement the new metric as being July of 2020. So July of next year, your CEQA documents will cover VMT instead of level service, and level service will be addressed as a requirement of the city. So what is VMT? And I've got I'll skip this and I'll just go straight to a video. Video describes it much better than I could do, if I can get it to run here. Is there sound on this?
What is VMT?
Might have to narrate this.
Or vehicle miles traveled refers to the distance that a car travels regardless of how many passengers are in the car. So this car traveling 1 mile would generate 1
Certainly
VMT.
turn up the volume.
And 4 vehicles traveling 10 miles would generate 40 VMT. To understand how much VMT a person generates on a typical weekday,
We'll just let it go. So I'll just narrate over the top of this. So essentially, the video is trying to explain what is VMT. So essentially, it's describing it's the length
and then
a car, independent of the number of people in the car, travels.
After a day at the office, Jess returns home 11 miles away. Later, Jess heads out and drives 1 mile to the gas station to fill up, before driving another 3 miles to
It's really not happy. Maybe I'll go back to my previous slide. All right, so we'll go back to the previous slide since the video is not working. So essentially what VMT is it's our number of trips times the trip length. So if you have a standard house that generates 10 trips a day, if those trips on average travel 10 miles for each one of those trips, then your house is generating 100 VMT per day. So that's essentially how we look at it. So one of the other things to keep in mind is essentially what it looks at transportation is it's looking at it as an efficiency metric. So based on where the land use is, how close it is to where people want to go, we're essentially measuring the efficiency of travel that occurs due to that land use. So when we start looking at this, OPR has developed a series of recommendations. One of the recommendations that it has is to take a look at VMT and try and make sure that when we're generating VMT, we want it to be 15% better than what's out there today. So, and it gives some options. We can benchmark to the city, we can benchmark to a region like the SCAC region or County of San Bernardino. But what it's essentially saying is it's identified that if we develop as we are today, we're never going to meet the statewide goals for reducing greenhouse gas emissions. So some of the recommendations you see up here is when we start looking at a CEQA threshold, one of the things that we've looked at is trying to essentially be 15% more efficient than what's out there today in Orange County. And we'll show you what that looks like in the city of Santa Ana. So before I get into showing you exactly what's in Santa Ana, there is a variety of screening, and this is actually one of the nice things about SB 743 is if you are in a land use or a transportation efficient area, you can take advantage of a variety of screening to screen for your CEQA assessment. So what we have here is there's a variety of projects that have been determined to be screened from analysis. So the first one is small projects, essentially projects that generate less than 110 daily trips. It's about anything smaller than 10 households, if you think about it. 10 single-family houses would essentially be screened from analysis. Local serving retail of 50,000 square feet or less, with the thought that they're intercepting trips that would otherwise have to go somewhere else. Local serving schools, and then the bottom two is what's on the next slides, which is really development in what we call transit priority area. And we'll define exactly what that is, as well as development in a low VMT generating area. So when we look at Santa Ana, and this is where Santa Ana really performs really, really well when you start looking at transportation efficiency. So the map on the left is essentially what happens when we look at all your high quality transit areas, as well as any high capacity transit in the city, and we look at a half-mile buffer essentially around all those transit stops. The one thing I found is Santa Ana, more so than any jurisdiction that I've looked at when we've done SB 743 assessment, you're well served by local buses on high or on very frequent headways, and it's just about every block there's a transit stop. So from that perspective, a lot of your cities, per the definition of SB 743, would essentially be screened from CEQA assessment, because what it's saying is, hey, if we put development near high quality transit, that's good for the environment. The map on the right is an exercise that we did using the regional OCTAM, or Orange County Traffic Analysis Model, where we looked at low VMT generating areas. So you can see everywhere that's identified in blue are areas we're identifying development in Santa Ana is performing 15% better than the Orange County average. Everything in that light yellow is essentially operating at below 0% to 15% below the Orange County average. And then the pink areas are the ones where we're seeing higher VMT generation than the Orange County average. So when we put all that screening together and we start looking at it, this is what this map shows, is essentially from an SB 743 lens, or if you're looking at transportation from an efficiency perspective, Santa Ana is very, very efficient, except for some areas primarily on the east side of town that you can see here on the orangish magenta color. In which case, anything that's screened out would no longer need to do a VMT assessment. It would be screened from CEQA, from looking at VMT through the CEQA lens, and you'd really just need to focus on those areas that we've identified in that map. So with that, I've gone through this very quickly, trying to keep it to 10 minutes or less. And again, this is something we could talk about for hours. There's a lot of information that we've tried to condense in here. But as we proceed, we are looking to ultimately make some recommendations and want to provide you with this information. But our first recommendation is to use the screening maps that I just showed you to help streamline some of the environmental assessment. And keep in mind, this doesn't mean you won't be doing traffic impact analyses. It'll just be not through the CEQA lens. It'll be as a requirement of the city. The second one is projects in those non-screened out areas are going to have to do a VMT assessment in addition to what they've traditionally had to do. And then we're recommending specific tools to do that, specifically using the OCTAM, or Orange County Traffic Analysis Model, to do that. And with that, I hope I did it in 10 minutes or less, so I'll open it up to any questions or comments.
David?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Question is, what is the practical impact to a proposed project that now going through this system or using the VMT versus a
yeah, so I think from a practical perspective, if you are in anywhere that's not orange colored, this essentially will have no impact on you. You're going to be in a low VMT generating area, you're going to get screened out from assessment, and then when you do your traffic impact analysis, instead of it potentially being challenged under CEQA, it's now just going to be a requirement of the city, and the city has the ability to focus on what matters to you as a city, as opposed to being concerned about being challenged over not studying an intersection in Irvine for some development or testing that got requested. So that's going to be the biggest component of it. I will say the biggest negative that we've heard is particularly in the development community. Any of the areas that we are seeing in that magenta color, if you will, they will have to go through a VMT screening, and it's going to take them extra effort to demonstrate where they're at and how that ranks. So it's going to be an added cost to them to essentially demonstrate that under the new CEQA requirements.
Thank you. That answers my question.
Mm-hmm. Angie? I guess I'm just trying to sit here and figure out what does this mean today versus what, I mean, people continue to talk about, you know, the impacts of traffic, and this is going to bring on more traffic. This is going to be a traffic issue. How is this, I mean, I heard the measurement is number of trips times miles per trip.
Correct.
How do you gather that data?
Yeah, so there's a variety of sources that we can use to do that. What we've actually recommended in our draft set of guidelines that we've been working with the city on is that you use the regional travel demand model to do that, which essentially matches trips based on where they want to go to their ultimate destinations. And using that, we can extract both number of trips as well as the average trip length from that. I should also note that because we are looking at it as an efficiency metric, to look at the efficiency of travel, we do normalize it. So when you start seeing this in the future, you're not going to see just VMT, but you're going to see VMT per person or VMT per household. Because what we're trying to do is determine is if we put a new development somewhere in Santa Ana, from an efficiency perspective, is the VMT generated by that person better here or better in Irvine or better somewhere else in the region? So we are kind of normalizing it on a per person basis so we can evaluate it as an efficiency metric. So does that make sense? It's a different concept.
That was a bad question to ask. Does it make sense? At this point in time, it's still not ringing, but that's okay.
Yeah, so it's going to be different, and I think it's going to take a while. And you guys will see a lot of this in the coming years until it becomes a little bit more mainstream. But to your point, developers that or development that wants to come in, and I heard it in the previous meetings or in the previous hearings, that traditional traffic impact analysis that looks at the capacity of the roadway and the number of vehicles that are utilizing that capacity, that will be something that the city will have the option to require and focus in on what are the key issues that they have with it. And my guess is you'll see traffic studies like you traditionally see today. They're just not going to be part of the CEQA documentation. It's going to be a requirement that the city puts on to review the project.
So it becomes part of the EIR?
I'm looking at city. It would not be part of the EIR, I would imagine.
No, but it could be part of our project analysis. So as part of development review, we would ask them to prepare a level of service study separate from it, which would then identify potential impacts that individual projects might have on our street system, similar to what we see today.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay.
Anything else? All right. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. The second work study session that we have planned is actually going to be continued to February 28th at 5:30 p.m. My understanding at this point in time, we have 4 people that are attending. Is that correct? Okay. And the one thing that was brought up as a potential was if we, Angie, I believe you have to leave at 6:30. You have to leave at 6:30. So is there any way we might be able to push it to 5?
Staff would be able to accommodate that if that was your direction.
Can we do, are you okay for 5? 5? And it's Cynthia Contreras-Leo is the fourth person, correct?
That's right.
Correct. All right. And Lynette, David, are you okay?
I moved some things so I could be here. However, I'll have to catch up. I wouldn't be able to arrive to about 5:30. But I'd say go ahead and go, and I'll catch up when I get here.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you're going to join us, so that makes 4. Lynette, you're definitely still out, correct?
Right, I have school.
You have school. Okay. And Eric's in court. So, all right, so now we have everything set. We're going to do it at 5 instead of 5:30, and we're going to basically run it until 6:30. We can continue the discussion with whoever's left if they choose to do so, but at this point in time, it's a 5 to 6:30 meeting. Okay, thank you on that. So I have to have a motion on this at this point in time. So we're going to make a motion. I'll make the motion that we're going to have it at 5 o'clock on the 28th, and it'll run at least till 6:30. Ken just seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? That's five votes and 2 absent, Eric and Cynthia Contreras-Leo. And Eric, you left at 7:50. You've got that one noted, right? All right. With that, we'll close our work study session, and we'll come back to comments. Does staff have any comments at this point in time?
Yes, we have an announcement to make that the Santa Ana Neighborhood Association was nominated by the Neighborhood Initiatives Program, and they are one of the finalists in the National Neighborhood Social Equity Awards. So it will be made in March of this year, and you may hear more good news. So
great.
That's cool.
That's very cool.
Good things. Thank you. Anybody else?
Just one quick one here. The 2525 project update. I don't know if many of you heard, but the city council essentially remanded it back to staff to take a look at a different project. So we'll be going back and working with the developers in the next several weeks to try to find a different project. We have to go back to the neighborhoods, and then it'll come back before this body here sometime in the next few months. So just stay tuned.
Will you have when will you have a defined timeline on that? Because there's been numerous time lengths that's been discussed about that. So
at the city council meeting that was remanded back, we said anywhere from 3 to 6 months would be the likely timeline for the project. So
are we still in that framework at this?
We're going to meet with the applicant tomorrow
to
kind of see what project they want to propose, and then we have to ferret it out and see if it meets what the council identified as their issues were. So I would imagine you'll probably see it in May, June would be very likely. So yeah, yes.
We'll have more news in a couple of weeks. So at your next meeting.
Thank you. Okay. Any other staff comments? Thank you. Ken?
No comment.
Angie?
No.
Lynette?
I have nothing.
David?
No comment. Just have a question for staff with regard to the work study for Thursday. Does it impact the fact that in the agenda today we listed at 5:30, changing the time to 5? This question, I guess it's okay. Just wanted to clarify. That was my question. That's it.
Perfect. Appreciate you looking into that. Okay. Thank you, staff, for the discussion on AB 743. We're adjourned. Thank you.
Can you clarify when we're adjourned to, please?
Pardon?
Can you clarify that we're adjourned to?
Oh, we're adjourned to February 28th at 5 p.m. for a work-study program on Main Place Mall.
And the location?
And the location is in room 1600. Oh, I didn't see that.
On the first one.